It was 3 years ago this week that I first spoke at Usdaw's conference. I remember we were in the Winter Gardens in Blackpool. The hall was packed with hundreds of delegates, and it was in the middle of the to and fro of the Brexit votes. To put it mildly, a lot has changed since then. I'm sorry we can't be together in person today, but I want to congratulate everyone at Usdaw for holding an online conference this weekend. We had to do something similar with Labour's conference last year. It meant doing my first conference speech was in a tiny room with no audience, which isn't quite how I'd imagined it. In fact, one of the many, many frustrations of this last year is that I still haven't given a speech with anyone in the room. Hopefully, that can all change soon. And as you can see, I'm out campaigning. Today, I've been out on our high streets, supporting our great Labour candidates in these incredibly important elections. We're making sure that rebuilding our high streets and protecting retail jobs are at the heart of Labour's campaign. I want to thank Paddy and all Usdaw members for your support. It will always mean a huge amount to me that Usdaw nominated me in the Labour leadership election last year. And I'm so proud of the work Usdaw members do day in, day out to help our party and help our movement. Never has that been more important than during the last year, because our workers in our shops, in manufacturing, home delivery and distribution have been in the front line of this pandemic, keeping our shops open, keeping our shelves stacked. You've kept people safe, kept food on our tables, and kept medicines in our cupboards. I know that has meant sacrifice and it's meant risk, and there are so many examples of Usdaw members going above and beyond. For example, Michelle Fleming, a co-op worker and Usdaw member in the Midlands. Michelle, with her 2 sons, helped deliver food parcels to care homes and across the community. Or Jane Griffiths, an Usdaw rep. Jane has done so much to raise money and to support local charities, even when having to shield during the pandemic. She truly deserves her MBE. I could name so many other Usdaw members. On behalf of the Labour Party, I want to thank you all for everything you've done in the last year. And now, I want to work with you to build a better future. As we recover from this crisis, we can't go back to business as usual. We just can't. We can't go back to an economy based on insecurity, inequality, and injustice, where the key workers we rely on the front line of the pandemic are at the back of the queue when it comes to higher pay and better conditions. We need to rebuild the foundations of our economy and forge a future that's utterly unlike the past, one centred on justice and security. Usdaw's New Deal for workers is exactly the kind of change we need. Higher pay and equal pay for all workers. A social security system that works and treats people with dignity. An end to the ridiculously low sick pay that's been exposed by the pandemic. And real job security with stronger employment rights from day one, and an end to 0-hour contracts. In the coming months, I'll be saying much more about how we can work together, how we can create the high-wage, high-skilled economy of the future. And I want to work with you and with businesses to create it. I'm also determined that this recovery rebuilds our retail sector and revives our high street. 2020 was the hardest year for retail that any of us can remember. If 180,000 jobs have been lost in 1 year in any other sector, There'd have been a national outcry. Instead, the Conservatives have reacted with a shrug, even though another 200,000 retail jobs are predicted to be lost this year. When I raised this with Boris Johnson at Prime Minister's Questions in December, he completely ignored it. I think he did one of his pre-planned jokes. We know the Conservatives don't take retail jobs seriously, but Labour always will, because Britain can't recover if our shops and our high streets are empty. Throughout this campaign, I've heard the same story. In Basildon, I met a salon owner, Daniel, who employs 10 staff. The government grant he's received doesn't come close to covering his rent or bills. So he's been spending £1,500 a month of his own money just to keep the business afloat. He now worries about how long it's going to take to pay off his debts and start making profits again. In Bristol, I met Abdul Malik. He's an owner of a small grocery shop. He's been open for nearly 30 years. He's got 18 staff. But he told me that the pandemic has left him now on the brink of collapse. When I think of the economy, this is what I see. People trying to get on, to pay their bills, to support their families, to create local jobs, and to strengthen their communities. All they ask of the government is that they have the chance to do so. And when I see businesses closing, shops shutting, I think of the impact it will have on local people and our communities. The British people deserve so much better. That's why in these elections, Labour is fighting for a High Streets Fight Back Fund to help businesses get back on their feet. We're fighting to stop the sell-off of our high streets through the Conservatives' Developers' Charter. We're fighting to empower local councils to get empty shops back up and running. We're fighting to level the playing field between the high street and online businesses, and fighting to protect family incomes. It's also why Labour's launched a commission on rebuilding high streets. I'm delighted that Paddy's going to be a member, along with senior representatives of local government, businesses and the voluntary sector. The Commission is going to look at how we can revive and rebuild our high streets and our town centres for the 2020s and into the 2030s, and make sure our high streets can once again be places of pride and of prosperity. It's a huge piece of work, and one that will drive the agenda into our next manifesto. We won't be able to turn around 10 years of Conservative neglect overnight. Neglect that's seen jobs lost, high streets hollowed out, and that's led to deep-rooted inequality and injustice. But we do have to start that work now. It will need the whole trade union movement working alongside business and a Labour Party that's under new leadership. But I believe this country is crying out for change, and that after the last year, we owe it to the British people to build a recovery that rewards their sacrifices. So I hope you have a fantastic conference this weekend, and I look forward to being back with you in person as soon as I can. Thank you.